Hello and good day. Today I'm going to talk about, I was about to say how to buy a school bus, but I said I'm not going to do how-to videos. So, what to look for when buying a school bus. In the United States, you do have a few websites dedicated to... Sorry, I thought I heard something. You have a few websites dedicated to auctions on school buses. You can get them pretty cheap. That's a good and a bad thing. You're buying your bus sight unseen, which means you have no idea what condition it's in. They don't give you any description if it runs, if it doesn't run, if the bodywork is good or not. I watched one video. A couple bought a school bus. They were all happy. They got it for like $2,000. They drove it home and they were surprised it stayed intact. One of the main support beams on the bottom of the bus was so rusted that it could have broken half at any time. It was really that bad. So I would suggest not buying your bus sight unseen. For us in Canada, we have to do a safety inspection that vehicles have to undergo. It's like a 120-point inspection. Everything has to pass in order for the bus to work. From what I understand, in the United States, it's not quite as strict. From what I saw, you could pretty much buy a bus, then drive it home, and you're good to go. But for you, in the United States, unfortunately, from what I've seen in some videos, is that it's a little bit more difficult for you to insure your bus as a motorhome. For us up here, it varies from province to province. Where I live, it was really simple. I just had to show them that all the seats were out. I had a bed in the bus. I just needed one more thing. I just needed to show that I either had a toilet in here, or I had a sink in here, or I had a kitchen area and a cooktop. So I quickly mounted together a cabinet, threw in a sink with a quick little water pump, threw in a quick little propane stovetop that had one of those 1 gallon, not 1 gallon, but 1 pound propane tanks. And the rest of the cabin was considered a cooking area or prep area for the stovetop, and it passed. In some areas, you need all of those things, and you have to repaint the bus. I didn't have to repaint it. I could have kept it the yellow if I wanted to. Ooh, spoiler. Anyway, so that's one suggestion: is try not to buy your bus sight unseen. If you can, go to a place that go to the place that is selling the bus. Look underneath the bus for any rust. One thing you want to look for is around the wheel well. If there is rust around the wheel, then you're definitely going to have a lot of rust on the floorboard, like on the floor of the bus. It will be rusted away. If you see rust on the outside of the bus, you definitely have rust on the inside of the bus. So that's one thing to look for. Another thing to look for, I'll show you here. What you want to see is a low mileage and a low runtime. What I mean by runtime is, in some places, in like the colder northern areas, the bus driver will go to work, start up the bus, pick up the kids, drop them off at school, drive the bus back to the depot, and they'll leave it run for the 8 hours while the kids are in school. Then they'll go and pick up the kids again. Seriously, that's what they do. So one thing you want to look for is a low mileage and a low, yeah, we'll call it runtime. I'll show you that. Let's try not to spoil anything in this video of what's happening inside. So, as you can see, I have 232,000 kilometers on it, almost 233,000, and the runtime in hours, right there, right there, 5,824 hours. So that's a nice low number. So that's something you want to look for. Whoa, am I dark? Holy jeez, let's get you back outside so I can focus. Whoa, that's better. So that's something you want to look for, is a low mileage and a low runtime. Another thing to look for when buying a school bus is your budget. Skoolies can get quite expensive. You can buy a school bus nice and cheap. I bought mine for 8,000 Canadian. And here that's relatively cheap. You can find a few that are cheaper, but they're probably in not that good of a condition. But then it's how much you want to convert it. You can do a basic conversion and it will cost you a few $1,000s. Or you can go crazy and all out like I'm going to do and probably spend about 40 or 50,000 on it. So you want to consider how much you want to spend on your school bus before you do anything. Look at your budget and think about how much you want to spend. Just make sure you can afford it and everything is okay. Because I'm getting kind of a little bit in debt here. Credit card companies are not liking me right now. But anyway, aside from that. Another thing you want to look at is where are you going to convert your bus. This is a huge one. Because in some cities, they don't allow you to park on the street, even if your vehicle is insured. In Winnipeg, where I live, there is no RV parking allowed on the streets at any time. There's a special permit you can buy for $52, I believe it is, but it only allows you to park on the street for 4 days during the summer season. It's pretty much a pass to where you pull up to your family's house, stay for the night, then you got to drive away again, kind of thing. Or you're getting your vehicle out of storage, you bring it home Thursday evening, park it on the street, then you can load it all up, get ready for going out for Friday night weekend kind of thing. That's how it is for us here. From what I've seen from some videos, it's like that in the States as well. No RV parking on the streets. In some states, even if your vehicle is insured, there is no parking it in your driveway. So that's something else you have to look into, if it's actually allowed to be in your driveway. I know it's your property, but the government might not see it that way. For me, 2 weeks before I went to buy the bus, I talked to one person who said I could use his property to park the bus on, but a couple days later, he said it couldn't happen. Then I asked somebody else, they said yes, a couple days later they said no. The day before I was going to pick up my bus, I got in touch with a former foreman of mine, somebody I worked with. He said yes, I could park my bus on his property, but he'd have to send me a map because he lived sort of out of town and it's not an easy location to get to. So patiently I waited for that map and it didn't show up. I texted him a few times, no answer. So the day I went to pick up the bus, I went to the location. I picked up the bus, I texted him saying I'm on my way, like, how do I get to your place? And there was still no answer. So I phoned my brother who lives out of town as well, and I asked him if I could park the bus out of his place for a day or two until I get in touch with this other person so I could then drive it back to his place and park it there. My brother said that would be fine. I got to my brother's place at 12:30 in the morning and I was exhausted. I was up for at least 24 hours because I had a very early flight to go where I had to go pick up the bus. Thankfully, my brother said I could keep the bus at his place while I worked on it. So it's very important to make sure you have a location to where you can work on your bus. That should be one of the first things. When you're buying a bus, make sure you can work on it somewhere safely. Make sure you can work on it somewhere legally. What else is there to think about when buying a bus? Size. Think about the size of the bus you want. You don't always have to go out and buy the biggest bus there is. The one I wanted was a little bigger than the one I have right now. The one I wanted was a 66 passenger bus. This one is only a 54 passenger bus. I lose about 5 feet of length. But I like the size, it still works for me. I just wanted the bigger bus because of more... Sorry about that, one of my brother's neighbors came by and he wanted to take a look at the bus, so I gave him a quick little tour. So where were we? I mentioned the size of the bus. Depending on what you want to use your school bus for. If it's just quick little weekend getaways, you could probably go with a slightly smaller bus. And it would be easier to park because trust me, this thing is a pain to park. Or if you're just a hunter who's going to go out for a weekend and just park in the middle of nowhere and you don't really need all the amenities, again, a smaller bus could work. You just need a bed and a stovetop kind of thing. But if you plan on doing long hauls or going for 2 weeks at a time, just traveling around, and you don't know if you're going to have electricity where you're parking or whatever, you'll need solar, stuff like that, you might need a slightly bigger bus. The electrical panel takes up a little bit of room, so you might need something a little bigger, and it also depends on how many people are going to be with you. If it's just you and your spouse, a shorter bus could work as well. If you have children, you might want something a little bigger and design it differently. And that's the best thing about having a school bus. You can design it your own way. I actually had 6 or 7 different layouts I was going to do with this thing, and then I finally went with the one I have. There's so many options. You don't have to go to an RV place and say, oh, I'm stuck with this one, this is what I have to buy. With the school bus, you can say, I have options. I'm not limited to what a dealer has to. Anyway, I'm rambling, I'm going off. Just trying to think if that's pretty much everything I can think of. So yeah, consider your budget. Consider, again, I would suggest not buying sight unseen. Go to a place that has them. Like where I bought this bus, he had 3 buses I was interested in. I knew I was going to be driving one back, so I went there and I bought this one. I would suggest not doing sight unseen. Make sure where you're going they have several options and you can buy a bus and drive it back. Location on where to build, make sure you have a safe place and a legal place, because you don't want to be fined or whatever else happens. Yeah, one of those videos, a guy did receive a fine for having his school bus on his driveway. Some zoning bylaw thing or whatever. Yeah, consider the condition of the bus and look at the mileage. Even though in some places in the United States you don't have to get a safety done to the bus, I'd still say take it to a place and get it looked at. On this bus, I have to replace something known as kingpins in the steering. There's not a lot of play, but it's getting to the point it's causing some issues when I drive. It's nothing terrible, but it could be something bad later on. So actually have your bus looked at. Take it somewhere and have it looked at, see what they think about it. That doesn't hurt. And in Canada, like I said, here we have to have safety done, so when you buy your bus, hope it's safe enough. But anyway, that's it for now. Just a few things to consider when buying a school bus. Take care and have a good one. Catch you next time.